Hopefully you guys can see me pretty well. I just got off work, so it's early in the morning, still dark out, but I am here to talk about this week's topic. There was a question about whether to go to a company-sponsored trucking program or go to like a private trucking school. I'm gonna speak from my own experience. I, as you know, went to a company-sponsored program. I went through Prime, and before I even, give my 2 cents, my main thing would be that you do your research. Do your research. If you decide to do either one, make sure you do your research. I did an intense amount of research before I decided to go to Prime. It really depends on your personal situation and what you can do. Excuse me. For me, I decided to go to a company-sponsored school because I couldn't afford, honestly, to go to a private trucking college, like a community college or a trucking school or something like that. I couldn't afford it. Trucking school will run you anywhere from $4,000 to $10,000, depending on, where it is and how long it is and all of that. I just didn't have that to spend at the time. There are ways, though, that you can get that paid for. You can, I know there's a program with the unemployment office. I forget exactly what it's called, WIF or something like that. If you go to your local unemployment office and just ask about how you can get a new trade paid for, essentially, there are ways that they can pay for you to go to trucking school if you decide to go to like a community college or a private school. And also, if you decide, that you want to go to trucking school, but maybe you can't leave home immediately. Maybe you need to be home every day. Family obligations, but you still want to go to trucking school. Then in that case, I would suggest that you go to a private school near you where you can be home every day or be home every weekend or something like that. For me, I didn't necessarily need to be home every night. And I was able to take that time because it takes about 3 months for training over the road if you decide to go to a company sponsored school, at least for Prime. I'm speaking for Prime. Now, there are other company sponsored schools that I would not suggest. The biggest con with company sponsored trucking schools is that it's like a machine. They're literally just bringing students in to churn them out to get these trucks filled. So there's not as much personal attention. Usually most of the company sponsored programs are really, really fast paced. If you're not for that, if you need that one-on-one, if you need that intimate attention, if you need intimate details about everything, then I would suggest going to a trucking school. If you can, like myself, I wanted to get the training over the road. I wanted to know what it was like to be a trucker over the road. Usually with company sponsored schools, you have to sign a contract that, once you get your CDL, you'll drive with them for a certain amount of time, and that will cover, the cost of what it would cost if you just paid outright. Like for Prime, I think it was like $6,000 if you just wanted to pay outright, or if you broke your contract. They did defer it depending on like if you had to drive with them for a year. If you left within that year, they subtracted like the time that you were there. So, just say you stay for 6 months, they usually cut that in half. So it'd be like, $3,000 that you still owe to Prime. Just make sure you have a plan. If you do decide to go to a company sponsored school, just understand that you will be with the company that you sign on to for usually 9 months to a year. Some places I think is like a year and a half. So just understand that you will be obligated to fulfill that if you go to a company sponsored school. Whereas if you just go to a private trucking school or community college, there's not, a contract or anything like that, but you will have to pay, out of pocket for that schooling. There are options, like I said, to pay for it. The unemployment office, you can get a loan. There's financial aid. Things are available for you to pay for. For me, I couldn't afford to take out another loan. I already have student loans, so I didn't want to compile more debt onto whatever I have now, which is why I decided to go to a company-sponsored school. With company-sponsored schools, like I said, make sure you do your research, because I have strong feelings about certain ones. I would not suggest going to certain company-sponsored schools, because they literally just treat you like, get in, get your CDL, get you a truck. And some company-sponsored schools have you in and out within 4 weeks. There's no way in the actual hell that you will be able to learn everything that you need to know in 4 weeks. It's just not right. And, they have these students fresh out here, no real training in a truck. So that's one positive that I will say about Prime. They make sure that they give you that time. You have to get your permit through them. You have to get your CL, and then you have to stay on a trainer's truck for a certain amount of miles. And that's to make sure that you learn everything that you need to know. With private trucking schools, there is usually like a classroom portion, and then there's, you learning to drive the truck. That is a pro, because with with private trucking schools, they have a couple of weeks just for your pre-trip, a couple of weeks just on backing, a couple of weeks on coupling, a couple of weeks on learning how to move the truck forward. So that is one pro that I will say you get if you go to a private trucking school. With company sponsored schools, you pretty much learn on your own. Like, I had to study the pre-trip on my own. I had to figure out backing. I mean, my trainer was there, but I had to figure it out on my own. He showed you how to couple, but you got to figure it out on your own. It's really it's more of an independent situation if you decide to go through a company sponsored program. It really depends on, like I said before, it really depends on what you can do, what you can afford, how you want to go about getting your CDL. If you can, afford to be away from home for 3 months, then, do a company sponsored program. If you need to be home more often while you're getting your CDL, then just go to a private trucking school. Like I said, there are ways to pay for either one. And, just make sure that you do your research with either direction that you decide to go. I went through a company-sponsored program. After I got my CDL, I had to stay with them for a year to fulfill my obligation. And I feel like I got, quality training. Some people won't say that, but that's how I feel about it. Other company-sponsored programs don't have that same effect, I guess you could say. So that's really my take on it. I hope this answered a question to some degree. I know it's kind of short, but it really, really just depends on what you can afford to do and what you want to do. That is what I would suggest. Just really sit down, do your research, think about how you want to go about doing it, because this is a lifestyle. People don't say this, but this is a lifestyle. So once you get into it, and if you decide you don't want to do it, if you go to a private school or company sponsored program and you decide you don't want to do it and you leave, you're gonna owe that money. So that's my 2 cents on it. I hope this helps. If you guys have any other questions, please feel free to put them in the comment section below. Also join the Facebook group and follow our other hosts on the channel. I'll put all those links in the description box below. Don't forget to subscribe, like it, share it if you want, and we'll see you guys soon.